Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about how to overcome hypervigilance as it relates to PTSD. But if you're new to my channel, welcome! Make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on because I put out videos on Mondays and Thursdays and you don't want to miss them. But let's jump into this very important topic. First, I want to define what hypervigilance really means because I know a lot of people use the term and not all of us fully understand what it means. And so hypervigilance is an extreme or excessive vigilance, meaning the state of being or abnormally alert to potential danger or threat. This can be caused by PTSD, anxiety, or even paranoia when it's associated with another mental illness. And it can cause us to be extremely sensitive to our surroundings and even perceive dangers that aren't even real. For instance, like hearing, a car backfire and thinking it's a gunshot and hitting the ground. We've all heard of those instances, right? Especially in relation to like war or someone who's been in an abusive or really scary situation. That's what we're talking about when we say hypervigilance. Because hypervigilance can cause us to be on high alert for long periods of time, it can be exhausting to our body and our adrenal system. And if you don't know, our adrenal system is responsible for handling stress on the body, and it releases cortisol as a result in a way to kind of help us manage it. And so this can cause us to be really jumpy or even easily agitated. We can feel constantly on edge, and therefore it can make sleep each and every night very difficult. If we struggle with hypervigilance and PTSD-like symptoms, we may also find ourselves using unhealthy coping skills with more frequency. We may be drinking more often, or binge eating, or even just zoning out in front of the TV or a video game. Anything that we can do to numb us out so that we don't have to feel on edge anymore. But the good news is we can overcome it. So let's jump into some of those tips. First, we have to recognize what our triggers are. And we can do this by practicing mindfulness. I've talked about this in relation to DBT, but when it comes to PTSD and hypervigilance, it's good that we are aware of how our body's feeling all the time. Is my neck tense? Am I gritting my teeth? Are my hands and fists? Or am I completely relaxed? Being aware of how your body feels and being mindful of that allows us to be more sensitive to triggers, things that set us off, because we can recognize that something's shifted and we feel different. And the better we get at this, the more quickly we'll be able to identify the triggers and we'll be able to recognize the early symptoms before we're in a full-blown panic and completely hypervigilant and jumpy. If it's part of an anxiety disorder that is causing us to feel this way, it could be our anticipation of someone judging us. Or if it's our PTSD, something that could be triggering is it could be a loud noise or feeling trapped somewhere like we can't get out quickly. Recognize what causes each feeling for you and where it comes from, and find ways to self-soothe until the hypervigilance feeling goes away. This could be something like a weighted blanket, calming music, coloring, calling a good friend, or whatever works for you. The next tip is to be a detective. You know how much I love being a detective and detecting. But look for any evidence to support or deny your feelings. For example, if we heard a loud thump and we think there's a murderer in our house, maybe we should go out and investigate. I know, super scary, but stay with me. We might just find that our phone fell off the nightstand, or keys fell off the dresser. We may find that there's a reason for what we heard. And it proves that there's no burglar and what we're thinking isn't true. My next tip is to breathe and take a minute to respond, not react. Hypervigilance is a reaction. We don't even think about it. It happens. But give yourself a minute to respond. Telling ourselves it's okay to feel this way and not letting it take complete control over our system is going to take practice. But it can help to control the symptoms by just breathing and taking a beat. Adding in the self-soothing that we just talked about, you should be able to slowly get better and better at calming and soothing your system. Assessing all that you're feeling, knowing that you have the ability to choose to not be affected by it. It's a new muscle that we have to work on building up, but it can help so much. Even having a plan in place for when we're triggered can help us get started. This could be like a safety plan or a self-care plan. List some things that work for you, write it down, keep it in a place where you can find it so it's there when you need it. My next tip, see a professional like me. CBT, EMDR, and exposure therapy are all great options if we struggle with hypervigilance. And don't worry, I have videos about all of those different types of therapy and I'll link that in the description. But seeing a professional and getting a proper diagnosis, whether it be PTSD or an anxiety disorder, or possibly we struggle with psychosis, but seeing someone and getting that diagnosis will ensure that you receive the right kind of care. EMDR is obviously best if our diagnosis is PTSD. And exposure therapy we know works for a lot of anxiety disorders. And CBT can work for psychosis as well as PTSD and anxiety disorders. It has a lot of behavioral techniques that we'll utilize to help us better manage. But know that seeing a professional is the first step in understanding what's caused your hypervigilance and what the best treatment could be. And also, medication. I know not everyone wants to be on medication, but if your hypervigilance comes from psychosis, this is going to need to be part of your treatment plan. The most common medications that are used for this are SSRIs or SNRIs, otherwise known as antidepressants, beta blockers because they help calm your system down overall, antipsychotics, and anti-anxiety medications like Lexapro or benzodiazepines. Overall, what I want you to hear with this video is that there's a lot of options available and help is there. The first step, I believe, is seeing a professional and getting properly diagnosed. Because just like when we're treating a virus in our system, we need to know what the name of it is and what's caused it in order to eradicate it. So we need to know where your hypervigilance is coming from so that we can make it go away for good. This video has been brought to you by the Kenyans on Patreon. If you would like to support the creation of these mental health videos, click the link in the description and check it out. And as always, leave in the comments other tips. Are there things that have worked for you to better manage your PTSD symptoms or any kind of signs of hypervigilance? Let us know and share this video. You never know who it will help. And I will see you next time. Bye.